So let us welcome on Power Conversations, Ms. Walker. Good morning to you, Marsha. And of course,
Hello.
one, the only Gary. Go ahead,
Okay,
Marsha.
so we are talking to Gary Griffith this morning, and then we will speak. So we're speaking crime, we're speaking politics, we're speaking I want to know NTA. We'll get into the announcement where you had custodians, constituency custodians. But before we even like these guys just totally took over my opening. I had an opening plan. It's my first show, telling y'all what y'all could expect and all kinds of stuff and the importance of joining the conversation. And these two guys just took over my opening. But that's okay. Now y'all know the kind of bacchanal. That's why they needed a girl. We need some girls to come here and cool things down. Gary, I saw a video this morning, but I do not want to get into that right away. But I'm just putting you on warning that there was a video of you this morning where you spoke about asking Fitzgerald Hines. And so maybe what I should have done was invited him and put the two of y'all to speak together on the show. And you could ask him yourself live and let's see his reaction. Maybe that's what I should have done. Next time, send me these interviews earlier and stuff, right? So we're going to talk about that because I do think it's an important question. And since you put a challenge out to the media, and I'm now the media, we're going to ask Fitzgerald Hines. And, Steve, maybe y'all could follow up and y'all could bring him on as one of your ministers. I don't know that he will agree to come on my show, but I know that he will agree to come on your show.
He definitely would.
And y'all could ask him, that this is what the former commissioner of police have said. But I keep saying it's kind of like a mystery. So we'll talk about that later. Gary, you spoke about constituency custodians. I think that's the name. That's the official name. Sort of like caretakers. I call it a shadow MP. So that, and I appreciate that because I don't like that, only when the election bell is rung, these faces appear and, well, where were you all the time? It appears that NTA is going full speed ahead with, their 41 constituents. Constituencies, you have announced that you do intend to run for St. Joseph. I think it's about 6 others. I saw Russell, Gail, Errol. Yeah, about 6 others. You might have been the 6th in the picture. Are you afraid that you're creating a 2007 scenario?
Well, good morning to all persons, whether you're PNM, UNC, ABC, or XYZ after 8 a.m. That is going to be the perception by many because there's always been that concept that if there's a third party outside of the PNM and UNC, they're going to split the votes. We would have seen that happen in 1981 with the ONR with 91,000 votes, not getting a seat, but it allowed PNM to get more seats in 1981. In 1991, the NAR, where Kamala Prasad-Bissessar was part of the NAR, she actually went against the UNC. And the NAR got 127,000 votes in 1991 and they didn't get a seat, but it caused the PNM to win many more seats in contrast to the 33 in 1986. And then 2007, so that was 3 times where it is you had that major third political force, and that will usually come, and that reached the Congress of the People with 147,000 votes. So it continues to increase, and the reason being, Marsha, is that younger persons are no longer caught up in that vortex of hey, mommy and daddy telling you this is a PNM or UNC house, your PNM or UNC till you die. Younger persons, because of technology, because of educating themselves much more, they're actually telling their parents, listen, there's nothing that you can gain by being a blind loyalist to a political party. And that is why that bridge constituency continues to increase, it continues to expand, both from persons who are disenchanted in the PNM and the UNC. And there's nothing wrong, by the way, for those persons who are PNM or UNC till they die. That is your personal belief. There are people, they're still...
I think there's something wrong, but I'll allow you.
Well, again, that's based on us on being independent voters.
Well, that's the whole point. It is wrong. It is wrong to stick to your guns regardless of information. When you know better, you do better. You are for growth to happen in any organization, for growth to happen in yourself, if you are faced with new information, a mature person would reevaluate their stance on things. So this blind support to any political party, and I am still a UNC member. I see on the news today that, you know, we have another UNC member resigning. I am still a UNC member, but I am not a blind supporter. And
Yeah,
I've told persons I grew up in
I agree with you, but I'm not going to attack or discredit those people, because you have it in the United States. There are 50 million persons, regardless of what Donald Trump will do. They are going to vote. They are going to be Republican until they die. And there are 50 million people, regardless of what you will see on the Democratic side. So, but if you want to call them blind loyalists, a PNM till I die, a born at UNC, and I will die at UNC, you have that in Trinidad and Tobago. There are 200,000 on either side, regardless of what the political leader will say or do. They are not going to change it. And that is our culture. It cannot change. It's similar to the United States system. However, those floating voters, that 150,000, dictate the result of the election. If that 150,000 decide, it's three things they do. If there's not a third party, most of them will migrate back to the PNM, and the PNM will usually win in a two-horse race. The UNC has never won an election in a three-horse race, never. In 38 years of existence, they have never won at any time in any election when there's more than two parties. There would be more than two parties. The second option with that third party would be to work with the UNC or the ULF, and you would have seen the results. Annihilation of the PNM, 33-3 in 86, 29-12 in 2010. The third option is to go alone, which we would have seen, as I mentioned, in 81, 91, and 2007, where it will allow the PNM to get more seats. But at the end of the day, we are not here to help the PNM expand their seats by staying separate. We are not here to get the UNC into government. I am here as a servant to represent that 150,000, those independent voices who just want good governance, who just want to have this country get a fighting chance. And the reason I've gone back into politics is to give the country the opportunity for us to have that fighting chance.
Okay, so you are not here to help the UNC get into government.
Correct.
I do think the numbers, I have argued that all the time. I mean, I would have gone up against Keith Rowley in a PNM, what would be considered a PNM stronghold. And my entire campaign was based on educating what you would call the floating voter, the bridge voter, educating them that their numbers, they actually surpass the PNM strong blind supporters. I try to explain that to every household, to every person that I met, because persons felt as though if they come out, it didn't matter. Their vote did not count because PNM supporters in Diego Martin West were so much that it just didn't matter. And I had to show them, listen, let me show you the breakdown. 29,000 voters, persons are eligible to vote. Keith Rowley on his best day has only ever gotten 14,000 of them, right? UNC would get 2,500, 3,000. That leaves some 16,000 persons that are available to vote, not PNM. The number of non-voters trump the number of, it's an unfortunate word to use these days, but it trumps the number of voters, PNM voters. And so, I do see in terms of like on paper, where that bridge constituency can, in fact, just totally take it home on their own. If non-voters come out in their numbers, we can see a third party become, in government, if you would run a strong enough.
Again, I'm hearing what you're saying, but the data will always show that the number of voters will never surpass 70%. However, what you just spoke about, let's look at Diego Martin alone. You said he got the 14,000 and you got 3,000. Had there been a Congress of the people, that 14,000 would have gone down to 8,000, and that 3,000 would have gone to 7,000. And there's a reason for that, because out of that 14,000, at least 5,000 of those persons will say, look, I really would do not want the PNM. I'm fed up of the PNM, but I just don't like the UNC. And it goes like that. And that is where in 2007, a certain person called Griffith and others, Rocky Garcia and Gavin Nicholas, it reached 8,000 to 7,600. It was borderline. And the only reason Keith Rowley, Colin Imbert, and Amy Brown got their seat was because of Patrick Manning's foresight to call an early election. Had he waited until if he waited until 3 months later, the tsunami was coming, and that's why for a few months after the 2010 general election, we took control of the local government election. So it shows that there's that number of persons, even that 60% who vote, the majority is not PNM. But if it's between PNM and the UNC, most of them will shift back to the PNM. I could even look at your seat. Had you been on an NTA ticket in that local government election, you would have won your seat. There were people who, hundreds told me, Gary, I am not going, and if I see that rising sun, I'm actually not going to vote or vote for the PNM. And I said, but why? So sometimes there's bitterness and hatred, but the vast majority, even of PNM supporters, do not like the PNM. They're not supportive of the PNM, but their hatred for the other side is what will always cause them to go back to the PNM. If there's a third party, they will break away, and then they will.
Do you think that the NTA can win this on their own without a partnership with the UNC?
Only polls could tell. I mean, it is unfortunate that in 9 years we have not seen a poll by any organization, media house. There's one media house that is doing it right now, and it is going to come out shortly. Steve Kahn and others know that organization, and they are very independent. They are very, very professional. They did a poll in the local government election. It had PNM 38%, UNC 35%, and NTM got a little 8%. But when it was added, that's where Kamala Prasad-Bissessar and the UNC realized we work with the NTA, we would be able to defeat the PNM, and that's what happened in the local government. We got 60,000 more votes than the PNM, which meant for every 5 votes, 3 voted for the UNC or the NTA. NTA didn't just get 17,000 votes. The other 110 seats that the UNC took part in, many ex-Congress of the People supporters voted for the UNC candidate, and vice versa.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there because I walk the ground for local government. I mean, we walk together. And what happened, regardless, and I mean, your face, because we understood strategically NTA, we needed to push NTA, more than UNC. But at the end of the day, persons felt as though you had sold out to UNC, you had become UNC, and, the alliance in the end didn't actually really work because persons felt, I can tell you, and I will be very open and honest, I know people think that I've sold out to the Balizé. I have not, I promise. I just am an independent person. I speak,
Marsha, that's not true. Had people believe that,
like you.
if people believe that, you'd have been on the 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. power breakfast show. So you're not, I'm sold out to the Balizé.
I'm not going there. But let me finish my point. I don't think coalition governments work. And, what if this was a general election, we'd won, and you and Kamala fall out inside a government?
Perfect.
And that is a concern that I have. I do believe that we need to sort out one party. So I would say, Gary, come home to the UNC, fight, maybe become the political leader of the UNC. Well, I like Rushton, but I'm not sure, having watched, we can talk about, okay, the UNC's never won alone, but what we can also say is coalition governments, I'm not sure they've served the country. I know PNM has not served the country, but I'm not sure that coalition governments, they do enough to remove PNM, but I'm not sure that they are the answer.
I can explain that, and you're right. What we have seen in history in the past, whether it is ONR or COP joins with the ULF or the UNC, it will automatically spell victory for that group against the PNM. So even the local government election, it was a massive success because, as I said, it was 190,000 votes for the UNC and the NT versus 130,000 for the PNM. That was bad licks. Let's not get tied up with the corporations. Had we put those votes in the 41 constituencies, the alliance would have won St. Joseph, Tunapuna, Lupino Bonnier, San Fernando West, Grande, La Joquita, Talparo. It was annihilation. So even though, because how they set up the corporations, you're seeing 7-7. But again, because you have a seat in Port of Spain where PNM won 300 to 230, and that is a seat. You have other seats that will be thousands. So that local government election was a success. As you speak about coalitions,
Gary, answer my question.
I'm committed. No, I'm explaining that now. So because you said it wasn't successful, but the data of the local government superimposed in a general election, we would have won. And as it pertains to coalitions, there have been 70 odd countries in the world that had coalition governments. Some have worked, some have not worked. Likewise in Trinidad and Tobago, governments who stand alone as the PNM, they have not worked. But the importance is that what happened in 86 and 2010, it was a marriage of convenience whereby these political parties just joined together to get more votes to beat the PNM. And then what? And that was the problem in 2010. Winston Buchanan just signed something called a Faizabad Accord. Let's just join with the UNC to beat the PNM. And then there was no plan, no structure, nothing to ensure the marriage remained. My concept is if there's any type of a strategic alliance, it must be a contractual obligation. It must be one where the political parties will have mutual respect for each other. Look at what has happened in the local government election. I spend more time.
Where are we with that? Where are we with that, Gary? Because it seems as though right now NTA is going alone. I don't know what's going on with Hope, PP. You know, we have a gazillion third parties. Thus far, NTA would have, to me, is the most impressive in terms of showing that proper organization, that structure, you know, announcing the custodians would be a step in the right direction. And that's why I ask, is NTA prepared to go it alone? Because I'm not sure that the talks are going, you know, I heard Jerlene John say, you know, Kamala is a unifier, that's her job, she's going to unite. But then you hear the budget consultations. I mean, Rushton Parry, you know, they'll say he's on vacation and that's why, but let's be real. I don't think Anita was invited to her budget consultation either. You know, the Ragbeer, you know, and so it's clear, right? I mean, you see Anita supposed to be the shadow for education, but then you'd see Khadijah talking on education matters. So, I mean, one need only look and you'd see that it's just the unity is not happening. And I'm also not seeing any talks in terms of a genuine, as you say, not a marriage of convenience, but, you know, real, genuine coalition talks. I'm not seeing it. And I would like to say that I'm a little bit, you know, on the inside.
Yeah, but you're correct. The country will see it, and that is the difference with, and this is not for me to knock Winston Buchanan or Prakash Ramada. They have their personality, and I think the UNC took advantage of that personality. That is why just prior to the 2010 general election, the COP just basically caved in. They no longer became a political party. They became consumed under the umbrella of the UNC, and that was the end of that. I promise, and that is where those floating voters, they are a very sensitive lot. They are not going to sit back and just accept blindly that, okay, we're just going to join the UNC. They want the assurance that there's not going to be a repeat of 1986 and 2010. That I give the assurance to the country. So by me setting up the St. Joseph office, the headquarters of the NTA in St. Joseph, me being a candidate, announcing candidate, caretakers, custodians, future candidates, for Diego Martin Central, Port of Spain East, Port of Spain South, Chaguanas East, Sanwa Barataria, Lupino Bonia, and Point 14. And in 2 weeks, we are going to open the San Fernando West office, announcing candidates for San Fernando West, Sangre Grande, Moruga, La Joquita, Talparo, Tunapuna. So the point of the matter is we are moving ahead. If it is that, unfortunately, I wrote to the political leader of the UNC, 3 months they have not replied. And it's one thing that my parents taught me as an only child is something called manners, basic manners. If it is you don't have the common courtesy and the manners to even acknowledge correspondence to me, it shows that you have not learned from 2010. We are moving forward. And the thing about it is that with the NTA and those floating voters, we have nothing to lose. I am not going to sell out those floating voters as what happened in 2010. Whilst at the same time, I want us to get into government. The UNC, they do not, and I'm being very blunt, they do not have a snowball chance in hell to win this election on their own. 2015, you tried it. 2020, you tried it. And it's getting worse. So the perception, and again, Kamala's personal only comment about me in the last few months is to attack me because she loves Jerlene John. Jerlene John has made it emphatically clear to everyone that she wants to go alone, the UNC wants to go alone. Everyone else in the UNC, they do not want that because they do not want to be in opposition for 15 years. So it is to be seen if Jerlene John has the power so much that it can override everybody else in the national executive of the UNC, if she can override the views of the rank and file of the UNC. I've always been the prodigal son of the UNC. So the UNC, I actually won my seat in a UNC internal election in 2006 as a rookie, defeating Bazio Pandey, Kamala Prasad Visesa, Wade Mark and company. I was the only myself, Sadiq and Manoa. So I have a very strong base in the UNC. I think that has become a problem and a concern. But I'm not here to form a coup d'etat. I'm here to unite Trinidad and Tobago, regardless of your political affiliation. I have no enemies. I have no persons that I see that because you are PNM, I despise you. What I want is a government that is going to be so united, regardless of your political affiliation. I want the best minds available to be able to make this a great country.
Well, we've got your new TikTok video there. It's
yes
8:25, so we have just about 10 more minutes. We're going to push the 10 and probably go straight into Atto. I have no time for myself, for any monologue that I thought I might have had. Let's talk your video. You did a video this morning. I don't know. I got it this morning, whether it was when it was. And you spoke about, let me see if I can find it. Hold on. But it had to do with the abduction of, remind me his name.
Brent Thomas.
Brent Thomas. And you said we need to ask Fitzgerald Hines outright that if he was the one that gave the approval, hold on, right. Did Fitzgerald Hines give approval to the police to commit an unlawful act? And I liked how you broke it down because, if we're talking sports next, you would have been a national athlete, annoying. I played hockey with Gary, y'all know that? When people say, why do you call him Gary? Not Captain Gary Griffith. You pitch marbles. I said, well, I didn't pitch marbles, but I play hockey. And you spoke, if the Defense Force hockey players had to go away, the Minister of National Security has to give approval for them to leave this country. Break down for Trinidad and Tobago that video for me, and you can expand.
Yeah, and I'll be within just a few minutes. So I was the Minister of National Security. I was also a Commissioner of Police. I think I'm the only person in Commonwealth that actually held both portfolios like this. So I'm fully aware of the powers that they have and the powers that they don't have, quoting a previous president. And I can confirm that there's no way that police officers can leave our territorial waters to be involved in any operation without the requisite approval from the Minister of National Security. As the Commissioner of Police, I knew that anytime police officers had to go abroad for anything, whether it's training, even on vacation, imagine as a Defense Force officer, if I have to go on vacation, you need approved, you need requisite. You can't leave the country unless it is that you have that requisite approval. And especially if it's so, imagine an operation of the nature and magnitude of trying to abduct a citizen of this country. So the Minister of National Security is the only person who can give such approval. And what I find alarming is that the media will not ask these questions. And that's what I mentioned in my press conference. It is so sad when we see things such as Section 34. The media will never ask it, Rolly, but you voted for Section 34 and you always speak about it. They speak about Emailgate. They will never tell Keith Rowley, but you claim Gary Griffith was planning to kill a media reporter, but then you appointed him as Commissioner of Police while the matter was still being investigated. Those are when you look at CNN, how they deal with Donald Trump, when you look at Fox, how they deal with Kamala, you will understand that media, they go hard onto these individuals. We don't. We pull back, and that's why I'm asking the media, the business organizations, the chambers, the NGOs, the religious organizations. We are becoming no different to Venezuela. They are using their type of leadership through the firearm. We are using it through the pen. We have seen persons being removed by independent institutions, be it Commissioner of Police, DPP's office, the head of the SSA, Integrity Commission, the Industrial Court, the Central Bank. So in this situation, the media, I'm asking the media humbly, please state, did Fitzgerald Hines give approval for the police to leave the country to have somebody abducted? And if that is the case, that is something that could be investigated for misbehavior in public office. And they are refusing to ask that question because Suzette Martin was then promoted to that of Deputy Commissioner of Police. So I'm asking the simple question, and no one wants to answer, because if Fitzgerald Hines says no, it means that Suzette Martin operated in an unlawful manner, and yet she was promoted to Deputy Commissioner of Police. So with that, Marsha, I don't want to squeeze. I see my boy Atto is on. And
I want to ask you though, because I don't think that, I know the media has an important role in any democracy, but there must be something that could be done in the courts, whether it be through a freedom of information application, whatever the case may be. There must be a way, if it is that you are suggesting that it is possible that our Minister of National Security, our MP, he's a sitting MP, it is possible that he would have misbehaved in public office. I mean, certainly that's not something that the media is carrying on their shoulders alone. And there must be something that you can do through the courts somewhere.
But Marsha, remember when the president did not adhere to the law and not send a merit list, the Law Association said nothing. Many of our independent institutions, they are mortified. And all I'm asking the public, understand what has happened here. The minister gave approval to the police to commit an unlawful act. Ask him the question. As it pertains to Atto, again, for people who are not aware, Atto Golden in the United Nations, he actually made the comment. I don't know if he has a crystal ball. He actually stated that he expected Alfred and Lafon to actually get.
Why are you? Wait, I am not off of sports. I'm not onto sports yet. Hold on.
I love the sport.
I know you love your sports. I know you love your sports, and I know. And now I'm wondering if you're going to even leave and allow me time by myself.
There's an important.
That's okay. We will get there. We'll get there. Hold on. I have one more question on politics before we move into sports, because I know you're a sportsman. We would have seen two different headlines. I do not get into who the security expert is, but we would have seen an activist speak about, expecting more migrants. Then we would have seen one security expert warns that Trinidad and Tobago must get ready for the election fallout. And I mean, I have no idea, but we're just keeping everything with Venezuela headlines, right? Then we saw Kamal Maharaj, saying that he was kidnapped, taken to Venezuela, and after paying a ransom, dropped off at sea and said to swim and whatnot. Give me your thoughts on the elections, the unrest coming out of the elections. And, there's a saying, when your neighbor house on fire, get your hose ready.
Yeah, well, again, I actually came off the starting blocks first on this. That was Saturday press conference. And then after the activists and everybody started following. Because this is what is required. And there's a reason why I came off the starting blocks early without jumping the gun. It is because in these situations, you'd have to be a proactive National Security Council. And you must understand, as soon as that happened, immediately you have to think, again, from my training at the Royal Military Academy, Sanders, they taught us something called then what. So if this happens, then what? Then it is that there's going to be a mass exodus. People fear political persecution, fear the economic negativity that you're going to encounter. What was done by National Security Council? We're supposed to be putting drones. We're supposed to be up in our intelligence system. We're supposed to be liaising with our ambassador in Venezuela. We have 7 Coast Guard vessels that I acquired for 1.2 billion that could have done the same thing that the OPVs could have done for 2.4 billion. They're all moored at Stobels Bay. They should all be between the peninsula, between Venezuela and Trinidad. We're supposed to have ramp up our security initiatives in the police stations at the Southwestern Peninsula, having military personnel stationed. Nothing is done, because if this happens, the domino effect, Marsha, is that it's going to cause economic instability in Trinidad and Tobago. We have 120,000 illegal immigrants in Trinidad and Tobago as we speak. And the reason I can say that as a minister, persons came in through the legitimate ports of entry and never left. So what's going to happen is going to have more Venezuelans coming in. It can cause an increase in prostitution, sexual exploitation of minors, increase in unemployment, abuse by, it will cause human trafficking. It will cause these same Venezuelans now to be under atrocious working conditions because they are not registered or regularized. It is an incident, and it will affect our health, our economy, our schooling, and so with all of that, nothing is being done, and I am very concerned. So as I hand over to sport, I will have to ask Atto. Is that important?
No, could you let me ask my questions? Did you know that
I'm asking to ask him? I'm asking to ask Atto.
But you don't know what my questions were. Suppose you go and ask the question that I have.
I'm sure you're not going to ask this one.
And then you take credit for my question. And then you take credit for my question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness, Gary.
Atto, you just tell the country that
he's hockey boys,
10.06 didn't mean that Hazy Crawford was slow because of technology, the type of shoes, the type of track. Because people are attacking Hazy Crawford and saying Hazy Crawford couldn't have qualified. Hazy Crawford's wearing a baggy pants. He borrowed someone's striped socks. So the type of shoes, the type of technology, the type of stadium to avoid the wind, all of these things. You have technology now that can see if your left calf muscle is 1,000th of an ounce smaller than your right, to build that calf muscle to get faster takeoff. So I guess, Atto, on to you, sir.
I'm being told guys.
The Jamaican won the 100-meter final by Atto.
We have to run. We have to
Especially
wrap
a
up.
dad joke, Gary.
We have to wrap up.